maravillosa, yo mantengo en mi mente tu memoria. Puerto Rico. To the memory of Don Pedro and to all the Puerto Rican political prisoners. Who's prouder than a Boricua about his flag? No one. Just come to a Puerto Rican Day parade. See millions of flags in every shape and size, on every form of garment, bandana, bodysuit, gown, shirt, tank top, socks, drawers. Qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, la bandera puertorriqueña. Proud to be Puerto Rican. Que viva Puerto Rico. salsa bands running by, passage road, saluting with the 40s and staring at that fine thing that swivels in front of you as a Gran Combo rolls by blaring. Telefono, telefono. If only you could get the digits. She smiles and waves and tells you that you can reach her by dialing 911. Everyone laughs and continues to wave the flag, and the band plays on. Can't speak Spanish. Turn red whenever I attempt it. Fuck! I know this language is mine. Somewhere in my memory I can remember Abuelita saying, "Que lindo, parece americano." Another carroza goes by as a young Boricua imitates el cantante más querido. Qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, la bandera puertorriqueña. The scent of arroz con gandules fills the air as a sea of Boricuas attempts to push up Fifth Avenue, everyone rhythmically inching to the beat of las Sonora Ponceñas. Hay fuego en el 23, en el 23. As a fine indignant sister in her Adolfo jeans screams, "If you touch my ass again, bandera, banderita." I've never been to Puerto Rico, don't know the history, can't speak Spanish. And yet in Vietnam, pissed off the sergeant and got court-martialed because I insisted on wearing a Puerto Rican flag on my helmet. Fuck him. If I was gonna die, I was gonna die for my tierra, not for the gringos. Another carroza goes by with a coffin, honoring the 65th Infantry and all the Boricuas who have given their lives in U.S.-sponsored wars. Qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera. Latinos making noise because it's only right. Protest, defiance, anger, righteousness. Yeah, Boricua baby, wave that flag. But where does the protest lead if it has no direction, young blood? Simply being proud to be Boricua for its own sake is a dead end. A group rolls by with the photographs of Puerto Rican political prisoners. Lolita Lebron balls her fist in salute from the top of a carroza next to a photograph of Albizu. Qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, qué bonita bandera, la bandera puertorriqueña. The sanitation trucks now roll in like the tanks at Tenement Square, attempting to erase the vibrations of ecstasy, our music, our memory, our history. The only thing that remains is the banderas that we refuse to throw away, that will hopefully remind us that the only path for our people is to protest through achievement. If the teacher gets on your case, don't quit school. Study harder. Because if you ace his class, you'll kick his ass. Vaya, 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 qué chévere. Qué chévere. bienvenido. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Qué chévere. Welcome to my dream. Most of my dreams are wet, so you might be a little bit damp. Now, this evening, we have planned quite a good time for you. We're going to have a party. Right? This is, as you can see, the party has just begun. Afterwards, we're going to continue the party down the block at Poco, right on the corner of Avenue B and 3rd. They're waiting for us. So there I'll be signing my books. If any of you haven't bought my books yet, in the back, this is... if you haven't seen it yet, the book is called Mamao y Pegao, a spoken word memoir. So it costs $10, and see James in the back is selling them. I will sign them for you later when we are hanging out, if you're going to hang out with us, and I hope Poco brings mucho. Yes. I'd like to introduce the band because, as you already heard, we're in front of some serious all-stars, right? Yeah, these folks, you know, first we have on sax and flute, Mr. Gene Jefferson. Gene? Gene is recorded with many greats. Gene, Tito Rodriguez, all the jazz greats. Gene, they say Gene performed for Christ at the Last Supper. When Gene is not playing with a band because he's so out there, he's so much in demand, Gene quietly told me the other day that he plays with himself, but that's another. On trombone, we have somebody who I've seen run around when he was 9 and 10 years old, and we were hanging out in high school, and later we started singing together, and he's familia. He played with Angel Canales, the Grammy Award-winning Angel Canales, and Sabol. Everyone knows Sabol, Mr. Richie Montañez. On trumpet, we are blessed with the presence of someone whose music we're going to be doing today, Jimmy Sabater Sr. We have Mr. Jimmy Sabater Jr. On trap drums, we have Mr. Ray Cruz. Ray wasn't sure he was going to play with us. You know, Ray has played with Ricardo Ray. Ray has played with Charlie Palmieri. Probably plays with himself too, but his wife is here. I don't want to talk about that shit. Ray and I have a karmic connection because... Probably. Because when I was walking around on the beach in Cuba, right outside Havana, and there were 80,000 Cubans out there, I hear my name being called, Ramon, Ramon. And I was hanging out with a friend, and she said, somebody's calling you. I said, get the fuck out of here. I said, we're in Cuba. There must be 50,000 jamons on this fucking beach. so this kept going, jamon, jamon. And she said, man, somebody's calling you. I said, this is bullshit. No, I mean, who knows I'm in fucking Cuba other than Fidel? I mean, give me a break. So all of a sudden, here comes Ray. I said, Ray, what the fuck? What are the chances? You know? So when he was thinking about, I don't know if I'm going to play this gig or not. I called him up. I said, Ray, if you find me under 80,000 motherfuckers in Cuba, you know you're playing this gig, right? He said, I guess I'm playing, bro. Ray Cruz. Bongos, we have my nickname for Louis Bausu is the voice of God on the planet. If Louis speaks to you, your knees tremble automatically. It's just Louis. Louis conducts the orchestra at Boys Harbor. My God, I've seen him tell people, if you don't know how to play that fucking Guido, get out of here. An incredible musician. Again, played with Larry Harlow, Machito, I mean, Dizzy Gillespie. Louis is Rock of Gibraltar. Louis is also the curator of Latin music at the Museo del Barrio. So Louis knows any question you could possibly ask him on Latin music, you ask Louis. Louis, just a quick question just to test Louis. Louis, you ready? When was the last time that Osama bin Laden played with Puente? Just checking, bro. Just checking. On conga, es Luis Basó. Aplauso para Luis Basó. On conga, we have John Bendeguer. John and I did SOBs, and it was a love affair. When I called John for this gig in January, I thought I would have to reintroduce myself to John, and I said, John, this is, and he said, Ray, cut the bullshit, when do we go on? So John, Los Jóvenes del Barrio, amongst many, many other bands on the East Coast. John Bendeguer. On piano, we have my brother, who we've been working together for so long, to the point that when I start a sentence, he finishes the sentence, those kind of relationships. So the other day, and every time I'm thinking about something, the phone rings and it's him, and he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. I'm saying, what? So I said, Sergio, you know what I was thinking? That he finishes my sentence. I said, bro, why the fuck should I bother talking to you? The first time I met Sergio was a good story, right? I was unemployed. One of my stints with NYU, New York unemployment. And so Sergio was leaving a job with the housing department. And he said, man, come on, interview would take my job, what the hell, I said, all right, bro, let's do it. Then he said, bro, I'm selling a car, I said, you selling a car? I said, yeah, man. I said, I need a car. I said, all right, man. So he takes me to the shit that he's had driving and shit. It's a fucking boat. The thing was like, half the block was this car, Like, 8 Latino families are fitting that shit, right? Everybody's going to Coney Island. So I said, Sergio, how much you selling the car for, right? He says, $400. So I said, $400? I ain't got that kind of money now, bro. He said, it's all right, man, $25 a week. I said, fuck it, you good. So it's a summer day, about 9, we both got a suit and tie on. We take the trip across the Brooklyn Bridge, right? When we get to the other side of the Brooklyn Bridge, the car breaks down. So now him and I on these cobblestone streets under the Brooklyn Bridge are pushing this car up and sweating and sweating. And then we get these yuppies that are coming by, and they're trying to ignore us because they don't want to get involved in shit. So we get the yuppies to help push the car up the fucking hill. By this time, we're completely soaked. And Sergio, we're both breathing hard. He looks at me and said, bro, you still interested? Ruben. Outside, man. There's one more, man. And I'm looking for him out here somewhere. I can't find Ruben out here, man. Go home. Ruben, fuck it, bro. Go, Sergio, you want to say something about Ruben?
You say something about Ruben?
Yeah.
Well,
everybody knows Ruben.
Everybody knows Ruben.
Everybody knows
the baddest
Ruben.
bass players on the East Coast, West Coast,
That's right.
internationally.
That's right. That's right.
Ruben has played with everyone from Machito La Puente to
everybody.
Mark Anthony, La India. I can't say enough about this guy.
Who hasn't he played with?
So let's have a good time, yes? Let's have a good time. In my house, when I was growing up, I was blessed, you see. I was blessed because, when people tell me, I was raised right here on 117th Street in Lenox, and then I came down to the LaGuardia Projects. And in my house, my mother insisted that there had to be a reason for a dance every weekend. And so my house, would be packed with the finest women on the planet. I was only 7 or 8 years old. Remember they used to send the kids to the back room and shit? And everybody would be all dressed in suits. And these women would come with their dresses, man. It was like, oh my God. And the finest asses you've ever seen. And so at 7 years old, I fell in love many times. And so as they were dancing in the living room, I would run through the living room while they're dancing, whatever they were doing, just so their asses would hit me in the face. It was like, that's when I learned the concept of dancing cheek to cheek. Throughout this period also, boleros were real big. And people would, it was easy to fall in love because the writers during this period of time would just play stuff that the minute you put your arm around one of these women and you dance and smelled her perfume, and Tito Rodriguez would be whispering in your ear along the time that you tried as much as possible, because the boleros were short during that time, right? So you had to get your 3-minute squeeze in, you know. The young people were grinding to all kinds of R&B in the basement and shit with the red light, you know, but the older folks were trying to be as cool as possible, dancing with la comay, you know. En la vida hay amores que nunca pueden olvidarse, imborrables momentos que siempre guarda el corazón, porque aquello que un día nos hizo temblar de alegría es mentira que hoy puedo olvidarse con un nuevo amor. He besado otras bocas buscando nuevas ansiedades y otros brazos extraños me estrechan llenos de emoción. Pero solo consiguen hacerme recordar los tuyos, que inolvidablemente vivirán en mí. Of course, you know, the great Joe Cuba, with the trumpet player's father, Mr. Jimmy Sabater. To be with you, one out of each lonely day, would there be no end? I love you so. When I'm alone, I feel the touch of your lips, so softly on mine, please say mine, and come back here to me, to feel your arms so close around me inside. My heart breaking such, I still feel your touch, my love. Whoa, what thrill. I'll never leave you, I know. For I love you so, to be with you, my love, to be with you, my love, my As time progressed, you had the great writers join the gods of the 50s and the 40s, and you had Lionel Richie beginning to write for everyone. And once he had to leave the Commodores because he became so popular that he couldn't stay with the Commodores. And one of the tunes that he wrote crossed over into country music and became one of the great love ballads of all time. Sung by Mr. Kenny Rogers. Lady, I'm your knight in shining armor, and I love you. You have made me what I am. I'm yours, my love. There's so many ways I want to say I love you. Let me hold you in my arms forevermore. You have gone and made me such a fool. I am so lost in your love, and oh, we belong together. Won't you believe in my song? Lately, for so many years I thought I'd never find you. You have come into my life and made me whole forever. Let me wait to see you each and every moment. Let me hear you whisper softly in my ear. In my eyes, I see no one else but you. There's no other love like our love. And yes, I'll always want you near me. I've waited for you for so long. Lady, your love's the only love I need. And beside me is where I want you to be. 'Cause my love, there is something I want you to know. You're the love of my life. You're my lady. Con esta orquesta canta cualquiera. I'd like to talk about our upbringing, and this is like, you know, this show is like the soundtrack of our lives, right? For many of us, for those of us who lived through these periods of time. But there are certain aspects of our growing up, like every generation, that take a particular kind of importance. And it's almost impossible to talk about our generation without having a reference to drugs. Flower power, LSD, heroin, marijuana. Probably, because we have to understand drugs, you have to put drugs in context. There's some very good drugs out there. There's nothing like the marijuana that was out in the 60s. And the Lebanese hash they used to smoke to Carlos Santana. You know? And Chingo Bop became really a spiritual experience on Lebanese hash and shit. It was just... Now, drugs must be understood in relationship to their historical properties, right? Because drugs in general are medicine on the one hand, and that's why they start off as. And they're also vehicles for the transformation into multi-dimensional reality, used by shamans in different traditional tribes. The problem with drugs, of course, is that when they're taken out of their cultural context, what happens is that it goes from use to abuse. And we have, you know, in our species genetic makeup, an addictive gene. And so human beings can get addicted on anything. Probably the strongest addiction I ever had was on women, and that's, you know, it's... But that's a species question, yes? You know, to get addicted to a delicious ass it's very, you know, it's just... But the fact of the matter is the positive and the negative of everything, right? Because when heroin hit our communities during the Vietnam War, we lost many, many people. There were more casualties because of heroin in our community than the entire Vietnam War. Like, you know, when people said there should be a chicken in every pot, you heard that? You know, the fact of the matter is during the 60s, there was a junkie in every household. At least one, if not the whole family. And you know, TVs, you know, were circulated back and forth because the junkies would steal the TVs from their own house and shit, you know, and sell it to the neighbor and shit. It was yours. So you know, the aspect of drugs has to be looked at within that context. If you tripped on acid or mescaline, man, I had the best trips on mescaline. That shit was like, oh my God, it was... And nowadays, they're using acid to treat depression. I read that in the New York Times the other day. Yeah. So I can imagine somebody who's feeling fucked up going, ah! I feel good. So how we approach drugs, because drugs are still a very important and significant part of our reality. Now the shit has changed to such a degree that the pharmaceuticals have become the main pushers. So you see people reaching into their pocketbooks, or you walk into their houses, and how many medications are you on? They compete. Oh, I'm on 10. Fuck, I ain't shit. I'm on 20. What the fuck, you know? And then you look at the side effects, and you read on TV. This could cause suicidal tendencies, aside from diarrhea. So it's a bitch, you know, killing yourself while you're taking the shit. Although por la peta, you might kill yourself anyway. Now, so with everything, there is a yin and yang. crowd burst out with cheer. They say, yeah, this is weird, all except that one girl who cried and man, it was out of this world. And I said, baby, why do you feel so blue? Don't you like my blue? And she said, and I said, baby, what you mean? Explain yourself to me. Because I L stands for love, and love got me so upset. I don't know what to do. And tears for dynamic, and you're so divine. I wish you were mine. Oh, because I feel free. So come on and run with me. I feel so free. Hey, me and my girl, we're gonna take a little walk. We're gonna stroll apart. And when we get through, I feel so free. She's gonna say, oh, baby, I feel so I love 1, 2, 3. Oh, because I feel free. So come on and groove with me. Really having a good time now. I feel 1, 2, 3. I feel so free. 1, 2, 3. I feel so free. Hoy se llora noche y día, porque me gritó bembón. Todo el mundo lo quería, porque me gritó bembón. Todo el mundo lo quería. Llegó la policía y arrestaron al matón. Uno de los policías que también era bembón. Me tocó la mala suerte de hacer la investigación. Me tocó la mala suerte de hacer la investigación. Y sabe la pregunta que le hizo al matón: ¿por qué lo mató? Dio usted la razón. Y sabe la respuesta que le dio el matón: yo lo maté por ser tan mejor. El guardia escondió la venda y le dijo: eso no es razón. 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 Amongst the other things that define our experience during that period of time is our relationship to the civil rights movement. When we finally became aware with the Black Panther Party that we ourselves had to begin changing our attitudes vis-a-vis the establishment, that we had to begin making more demands upon the establishment. And it was with that that the Young Lords came about. And there are many Young Lords in the audience, I'm sure. Can I get some hands? This raising of consciousness that affected all of us and made us feel so Boricua, Because prior to that, we were confused. We had no idea where we fit. There were some of us who thought we were black. There were some of us who thought we were white. Or some of us were black, some of us were white. But we didn't know what the fuck to think. So we needed a definition that somehow fit us, and we could wear it well. And we understood that we're a multicultural, multiracial people. And within that, then everything fits. Because we began understanding that we have to encompass the rainbow. And encompassing the rainbow, then we fight on all sides. But the main thing is to fight on the side of those who are most oppressed. To give voice to those people who have been downtrodden and really have nobody to defend them. During this period and much later, the National Congress of Puerto Rican Rights was formed. And it so happened that right when the Congress was being formed, in 1980, 1981, a truck pulled up in the South Bronx neighborhood, one of those film crews, and the film crew began setting up, you know how they usually do in all the neighborhoods, and they start kind of, you know, snapping fingers, all these folks who are not from there, and saying, everybody must move their cars off this block, that kind of shit. Mira, vamos a hacer una película, tiene que mover el carro, instead of saying, fuck you, you know. But, you know, we're so excited about having some kind of attention on us that we allow these folks to come in here and just kind of dictate. Rather than say, motherfucker, you want me to move my car, pay me. Fuck you. But no, you know, oh no, mueve el carro, mueve el carro. And, you know, because this might be an opportunity. So on this particular occasion, as summer day in the South Bronx over there on Simpson Avenue, the director comes out after they set up all the cameras and they say, who wants to be in a movie? You girls want to be in a movie? Say, oh shit, yeah. So, well, you go upstairs and put on a short skirt and heels and come on back down. So the two girls run upstairs, and of course all the other girls are envious, you know, and they come back down, put on makeup, and they put on makeup, and the director says, stand against that wall and put your hand on your hip and go like this and chew this gum. So, you know, the cameras start rolling and shit, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's exciting, that's Lisa, and that's Betty, oh my God. And then the father comes home. And there's a big crowd, everybody wants to see it, right? And the father says, somebody says, mira, tu hija está en una película. You know, he said, my daughter's in a movie, man. No, she's there. Oh my God, it's so exciting. So the father goes through the crowd, and he sees his daughter against the wall, shaking her hip. Father loses it, man. And he says, what the fuck? Mira, Lisa, ven acá, coño. And the director said, shh, you're interrupting the production. And the father says, fuck you. And so, finally the director calls a cop to arrest the father because he's interrupting the production. All hell breaks loose now. All hell. The next thing you know, they have to pack up this truck right away, and they're leaving right away. Yeah. Paul Newman is there. They almost turned over Paul Newman in a Volkswagen, right? As Cool Hand Luke was all shook up. So eventually, you know, we got together with Time Life Films, and David Susskind was pushing the movie. You know, Ed Asner was in it, and we said, listen, we're concerned with the script. We want a copy of the script, and we want to discuss how our image is being portrayed in this movie, because we're not accepting you putting out some negative shit about us like you always do. Oh, no, you don't have anything to worry about. Raquel Ticotin is in this movie, and she plays a nurse. So you have a professional in the movie. So then when we took the script home, we found out that Raquel Ticotin was a nurse that was stealing drugs from the hospital because she was hooked on drugs. So we said, yo, this is not going to work, you see. You need to change this shit. They refused to change it. So upon refusing to change it, we organized the Committee Against Fort Apache. And the Committee Against Fort Apache led a nationwide boycott against this film that really stuck it to them. Now, one of the problems we had in one of our first meetings is we said, what are we going to do with the young people who are so hungry to see themselves on the screen and they're black that we're not going to be able to get to them, you know? They're just going to want to go in. And I said, I'll write a rap song. And, you know, and in the rap song, that's the way to talk to young people. We'll tell them about the film. So it was an hour before I was supposed to go to the meeting, and I still hadn't written the rap song. And I said, oh shit, I said I was going to write, I can't go over there, otherwise I'm going to look bastante flojo and shit. So I was changing my daughter's pamphlet. My daughter's over there, Lorita. And so I was doing recycling. You know? And at that time, there was the song that was, I was listening to the radio, and the song that was on was a song by the Brothers Johnson. And the song was, everybody take it to the top, we're gonna stomp all night in the neighborhood, gonna feel all right. I said, oh shit, that's a good beat. So I sat down and I wrote the Fort Apache Bop.
Everybody.
Come on everybody and follow me. Gonna take you to the movies, all for free. Don't be alarmed and don't be surprised if we all wind up hanging out outside. Cause all I'm saying, I'm sure you'll agree, boycott the movie Fort Apache. We're gonna run, jump, stomp to the Fort Apache boycott. We're gonna run, jump, stomp to the Fort Apache boycott. Now listen up while we jump and shout. Gonna tell you what the boycott is all about. You know David Susskind from TV, he made a movie about you and me. Ain't that nice, I'm sure you'd say. Why would he do that anyway? I said money, yo, money, M-O-N-E-Y. But that ain't all, listen to this. He's trying to say we smell like piss. He got pimps, hoes, tramps and dogs, junkies, pushers, scum and hogs. All of this they say we are, and we don't even have a star. So come by land, come by sea, boycott the movie Fort Apache. Run, jump, stomp to the Fort Apache boycott. Run, jump, stomp to the Fort Apache boycott. But we know better than this, you see, cause we respect our community, and we're gonna make it loud and clear. We won't have this movie here. We're gonna stop it east, we're gonna stop it west, gonna put Time White right through the test. We're gonna stop it north, gonna stop it south, gonna make Paul Newman shut his mouth, gonna let those movie makers know that we won't patronize their shit so long as they show Tarzan and Jane, Beulah Land and that movie fame, Amos and Andy and Charlie Chan. We won't put up with that shit, man, cause all these movies try to show that we are clowns and we say no. Run, jump, stop to the Fort Apache boycott. Gonna run, jump, stop to the Fort Apache boycott. It's time for truth and what we believe. Show the world what we've achieved. How hard we work in every way just to make it to the next payday. Show the dignity of our life, and we'll be glad to pay the price. Cause if you turn around and might gonna hit you right square in your pocket. Gonna run, jump, stop to the Fort Apache boycott. Gonna run, jump, stop to the Fort Apache boycott. I said, ooh, ah, aina ma, boycott Fort Apache. I said, ooh, ah, aina ma, boycott Fort Apache. ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto? Pegao. Pegao de Marta Montañez. There is no better pegao than the pegao of Marta Montañez. Marta, don't blush, Marta. Don't blush. Pegao, this piece came about as a result. This piece came about as a result. I was teaching a class at the college in New Rochelle, in Co-op City, a class on Puerto Rican studies. And it turns out that a group, you know, one of those groups of bandoleros that have so much history to them themselves, winds up as my students. So I had 15 Boricua students who were all in their 40s, 30s, and all of them have a fucking history, and all of them are funny as motherfuckers. So what happens in the class is that we wind up laughing so much week after week that I feel bad that I'm not teaching the class. Because it's a 3-hour class, and man, the shit gets hysterical, and other classes are knocking, you guys are enviously saying you guys are making too much noise and shit. So by the 3rd week, I apologized, And I said, listen, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be teaching Puerto Rican history, and all we've been doing is laughing. So they said, man, we've learned so much in 3 weeks, thank you. So I said, wow, so then spring break came about, and I said, we should set up an organization here at the school, because the organization was primarily the school was primarily African American. I said, and for Latinos to feel comfortable when they come in, we should set up a group. And they said, yeah, man, that sounds a good idea. And then I came up with the bright idea, struck with the muse, and I said, we should call the organization Pegado. Puertorriqueños, P, educándose y para garantizar G, amor, E y orgullo. Pegado. So they said, oh shit, yeah, man. And then the idea started rolling and shit. And they said, we can set up t-shirts, man, con un pegado, una olla, un sartén aquí, con un ajo habichuela acá. Oh yeah, man. And the shit started rolling. So then spring break came. And I said, during spring break, I said, I'm going to write a poem for you guys. They said, you going to write a poem? Yeah, man. I said, yeah, man, I'm going to write this poem. Because this class has turned me on such that I have to write something just to share it with you. Vaya, that's chévere. So spring break, I went on a 7-day fast. And I went up to Newport. And I was just drinking water for 7 days. The guy who's taking care of the videos today, Nelson Colon, I went to his house. Fucking Nelson, when I get there, I told him I was at a spring fast, I said, picnic party. So he was really testing my resolve and shit, So while people were slobbering pernil and shit, cuerito, I was on water and shit. You have to give me applause because I stayed on water. On the 6th day of that fast, I got up out of bed at about 6 in the morning, and I think the only thing left in my intestines at that point was pegado. Because you could never digest pegado. I mean, you see those programs of forensics, you see that shit, CSI, Miami, all that shit. Sometimes, somebody's dead on the floor, there's blood and shit, and it says, well, what's the cause? And they do the lab thing, and then the lab technician goes and says, he ate glass. It cut his intestines. So he ate glass, was it suicide? And then you have a Puerto Rican forensics guy, look at the little piece, that's not glass, that's pegado. So be careful. Y no hay más malo que un peo de pegado. That shit a clear room. So I got up at 6 in the morning and I wrote this. Coño, lo que queda es pegado. Pegado was first discovered in the Ming Dynasty by a Chinese father of 50 who came home one night too late for dinner. His name was Mao Pegao. Mao Pegao was hungry from a long day in the field, so when he came home and lifted the cover off the pot to eat his rice, there was none left, except the rice that was stuck to the bottom. Mao yelled out, Coño, lo que queda es pegao. I think era chino cubano. And then he tasted it. Que chévere. Pegao has since been discovered and rediscovered all over the world where people by necessity must scrape the bottom of the pot. Pegao is the caviar of the poor. Pegao is delicious. Un pegadito bañado en sofrito bien tostadito con salsa picante de habichuela caliente. Rich people will never understand pegao. Rich people never get to the bottom of the pot. They don't have to. Those poor, poor rich people. Pegao is a revolutionary concept. It is the secret link in the international chain that will bring down imperialism. From Belize to Vietnam, people who love to love pegao. Pegao is a deep social reality. It is the honey that's the product of the tears. It is the good that comes out of the bad. It is the pleasure that emerges from misery. It is la esperanza that lurks at the bottom. Pegao is like the roach at the end of a good joint. Pegao is a totality. It is used in many ways and means many things. Cuidado que eso se pega. Me pegué, se pegó, nos pegamos, Willy, huele, pega. Te pego, ahí sí me gusta bailar, pegadito. But above all, pegao means together. A togetherness that is forged by taking the direct fire from the stove while being dumped on from the top. The hotter the fire, the more together the pegao. Yes, we are the pegao of the earth. Those of us who must remain at the bottom. Chino, Latino, Jamaicano, Caribeño. What a delicious pegao. Taste it. What a powerful pegao. Feel it. Siéntelo. The mix is so powerful it forces the pot to jump on the stove. The pot jumps to merengue. The pot jumps to samba, rumba, salsa, reggae, disco, breakdance. Turn it off, yellow rich, because they can't understand pegao. But they can't turn it off because we've taken control of the pot. Will it blow up, sending the blanquitos to hell? No, because all we want to do is to turn the pegao from the bottom to the top and mix the blanquitos so they too can appreciate pegao. Espera, wait a minute. The real deal is the blanquitos don't believe they are part of the pegao. They are blinded by their pearly white exterior. Blanquitos don't understand that natural rice is brown y que arroz sin color jamás tendrá sabor. But that's okay, paciencia. The great mother has mucha paciencia. The new white rice at the top just takes a little longer to cook. Huma mau mau, papa huma mau, papa huma mau mau, papa huma mau. Sound I ever heard. Huma mau mau, papa huma mau. And I can't understand a single word. Papa huma mau, 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 papa huma mau. Who is Papa? Where is Papa? What is a mamau? A mamau is a sucker. But somehow, as so often happens in language, a word loses something in translation. In Spanish, mamau has a much deeper significance. Mamau comes from the verb mamar, and is conjugated in the following manner. Yo mamo. Tú mamas. Él, ella, mamo. Nosotros mamamos. Y para los come mierda, those are people who, you know, come mierda, those are the people who suck when they don't want to suck. You know those kind of people? Or do they think that they're supposed to suck to do you a favor? Is anybody guilty of that shit here? Si no quieren mamar, no mamen, coño. Para los come mierda, it's conjugated vos mamáis. In its most fundamental light, mamán has to do with the nurturing of the species. It is the mother feeding the future generation by placing the breast in the child's mouth. It is called mamando a mama. The sense of peace and pleasure is so intense that the mother has to forcibly wean the child off the tip, or else he will become un niño mimado, which means a mama's boy, which is the baby form of the adult mamá. Pero las ganas de mamar never leave us. Una buena mamada is a generally agreed upon social fantasy. Amame más, sigue mamándome así, que no hay nada en este mundo comparado con tu forma de mamar. Such a pleasurable activity produce the negative caricature of the mamau. Perhaps it is because when one sucks, one usually has his eyes closed, basking solely in the pleasure of the moment. Vulnerable, defenseless, impotent, futureless, mush, a pawn in somebody else's game. And why is it that only men are called mamaus? You never hear a woman being called a mamau. Can we call them mamalonas? No, it's somehow not the same. Is it because ellas maman distinto a los hombres? Should women then share some responsibility for the production and nurturing of mamaus? Do women benefit from men being mamaus? Maybe it is time for us to open our eyes and dejar de ser mamaus. Perhaps before we panic, maybe it is possible to dejar de ser mamaus sin dejar de mamar. In the nation of Kenya during the 1960s, a revolutionary group was formed to overthrow the oppressive government. They called themselves the Mau Maus. Maybe it is time for us to make the transition or the leap from mamaus to Mau Maus, to raise the consciousness of our people, to question and to protest rather than to accept and lie still, to insist on advancement rather than believe the lies that somehow there's no longer any money to fund our dreams, to open our eyes to the mega profits being raked in by the transnational corporations such as AT&T and IBM, while our children go to school with not enough books to learn their ABCs. Maybe we can change the next generation of children and have them sing Papa es un Mau Mau. And now let me see if you understand the difference between who is a Mamau and who is a Mau Mau. Giuliani.
Mamau.
Albizu.
Mau Mau.
Pataki.
Mamau.
Malcolm X.
Mau Mau.
Happy birthday, Malcolm. Bush.
Mau.
Lolita Lebron.
Mau Mau.
El Chupacabra. Sometimes it's not so easy to tell. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, described as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. Superman was a real big part of our upbringing, right? We used to see Superman, you know, George Reeves, who eventually committed suicide. Just nobody could kill him, so he figured he'd kill himself. But, you know, it's sad, of course, you know, making a joke, as Boricuas do, you know. When Hector Lavoe threw himself out the window that time and landed and didn't die, you know, the Puerto Ricans have a real weird sense of humor. They call him El Hombre de Goma. It's just that kind of... And when the guy with the Walenda tried to go, remember, in Walenda he died and shit. Anytime somebody fell in Puerto Rico, they said, mira, es un Walenda. Just the nature of Puerto Rican humor. Part of the Superman thing, I wanted to relate it to housing. Because when we were growing up, you could say very kindly we had a mice problem, except that the fucking mice were a foot long. And so, you know, and the tails and shit, you know, and every once in a while, we'd be hanging out and a rat would fall through the ceiling because it was too heavy and land on the table. Boom! And so, you know, us as little kids, my brother's there, you know, he was part of what we call the rat patrol and shit. And we had sticks and shit that we would have in the kitchen. And the minute the rat would hit, it was a drill team and shit. We'd immediately go to the back, and the rat, you know, the rat knew we were after his ass. So he would go to the corner, because rats, instinctually, that's what they do, you know. So they'd be these heavy beds, because in those days, they really had brass beds. Even poor people had brass beds in those days, right? Not this plastic shit they get now. So we had this down to a science, nosotros el calzoncillo y descalzo with the sticks and shit. And the big brothers would grab the bed like this, very silently, and count to 3. Because they didn't want to shake the rat out of the corner. You know? So it would be one movement. The bed would be out of the way, and 5 sticks would hit the rat simultaneously. Boom! Dead. And then pick him up like this in our underwears and bare feet and go to the window and throw him out the window to the backyard. And we'd all look, we're on the 7th floor, and we'd look out the window and we'd say, get him in the garbage can, see if we get him in the garbage can. So one day, you know, we're looking at, you know, they used to have the silent cartoons and shit, Farmer Gray, that's when TV first began and shit first, you know, so. We see Tom and Jerry, so somebody came up with a great idea. He said, why don't we just get a cat to fight these rats, man? What the fuck? You see, on TV, they're fighting all the time. So we went to the backyard, and we got a cat. We said, it's on now, man. We trained this motherfucker. We had him training. We had him running and shit. We knew he had a serious fight. So we fed him. The cat was very happy to be fed and shit. And sure enough, one day, there's a rat in the kitchen. He said, get him, man. Put the rat in the kitchen. There's a rat in the kitchen. Go get him. The rat would go, like nasty and shit. We throw the cat in there. The fucking cat would cut out. He said, don't pay me enough for this shit. So one day, we found this cat in the backyard, man, that looked like a fucking lion. This shit was yellow, this shit was, you know, and cats are not like dogs, you know, cats look at you like, what the fuck do you want? So my brother Carlos, you know, may he rest in peace, Carlos said, I'll go get some milk from the store, which means he's going to steal a container of milk, because we never bought shit. So he went and he got this milk, you know, and the cat's still hanging out looking at us like, man, I'm fucking bored, you're bored, why are you looking at me for? So my brother Carlos puts some milk in a little thing, goes up to the cat, and the cat licks the milk, allows Carlos to pet him. Next thing you know, Carlos is coming home with this lion and shit. So we have a new pet in the house now, you know? And we named him immediately Superman. Carlos even put a little red cape on him, shit. We threw him from the top of the Superman. Ah. So finally the day came where Superman had to be tested and shit. There's a rat in the kitchen. Get Superman, man, get Superman. So we grabbed Superman. And there this rat nasty as a motherfucker. He was like, so we grabbed Superman. Get him, Superman, kick his ass, Superman. And they went at it, man. And next thing you know, the screeching was incredible. And they rolled up, both of them, all tied up, biting and scratching, up the wall, down, hit the wall. Kick his ass, Superman, kick his ass, go on, kick his ass. And then, at a certain moment, they both fell apart like this. And they both looked like they were dead. So we said, oh, fuck, he killed Superman. So we went at this rat with all our sticks out. So we finally cleared him up, and then we had to see if Superman was still alive. So somebody went and checked Superman's pulse and shit. Superman was barely alive. He was all ripped up and shit. So we said, no, we got to fix Superman. They were crying and shit. Superman was all fucked up. You know? So we taped Superman up, man. We got a splint for him and shit. I think we had crutches for him. So you know, we kept 2 or 3 days figuring out what's up with Superman, you know, and then one day Superman wasn't there anymore. So we said, Superman's gone. He's gone. So we said, oh, where'd Superman go? But then he left a note. I said, oh shit, you know. And it was scrawled in blood. And Superman said, you can't pay me enough for this shit. In modern housing, in the modern housing movement, we have some success stories. When they were burning the Bronx, and all, you know, everything, you remember that period where everything was just so desolate, it looked like, you know, it looked like the apocalypse had happened. And then the city, because they always think of us, you know, decided that they were going to sell all these abandoned buildings to Trump and Helmsley, right? For $1 a piece. So nice, they're so nice. $1 a piece to Trump and Helmsley. So a couple of people said, what the fuck? Because there was hardly anybody left. But with the few buildings who were left, there were some activists who were still very much involved. One of these activists was named Cesar Acevedo. And Cesar organized a group and said, we're going to take this building over here on 10th Street. And one of the things that they kept for the community was called the Sweat Equity Program. That if people actually would knock down the inside of the building and work it for redevelopment, that they could have that building later. Of course, you know, everybody said, yeah, man, I'll do that shit, but when you got into that process of homesteading, and you had to be every weekend under all kinds of conditions, it could be 0 degrees and shit, and you were out there, it would take years. How many years did it take, Elizabeth? Do you remember? About 10 years, every weekend, man. Every once in a while, I would go in there, you know, tumbar una pared just to show that I was, you know. But these women were there every weekend, under all conditions. So I wrote a poem for Cesar Acevedo, which is called Great Caesar's Ghost. And it's Great Caesar's Ghost, if you remember Superman, it was Perry White, right? The editor of the Daily Planet. Whenever he was excited, he would say, Great Caesar's Ghost! Faster than a speeding roach, more powerful than the swing of a crowbar, able to sweep tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a dumpster. No, it's a homesteader. Yes, it's a homesteader. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Loisaida with powers and abilities far beyond those of normal superintendents. Homesteader who can change the course of mighty roof leaks. mixed plaster with his bare hands, and who described that the tenants of 367 10th Street fight a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and affordable housing. The tenants of 367 are sitting right there, folks, so a hand for them. This poem is also dedicated to the tenants of 367. The title of this poem is Homestead. No time for love, no time to play, working 24/7 because there ain't no way. You can still afford to pay these rents, no money for food, it just makes no sense. Cause you're a homestead. Working 9 to 5 every day of the week, don't have enough time to catch some sleep. Get a call for a party on a hot weekend, say sorry amigo, ain't no such thing. Cause you're a homestead. It's 0 degrees and it ain't no shit. The weather's cold as a witch's tip. Quédate! Your mind screams, you fool. But for the rest of the crew, you know it ain't cool. So it's layers and layers in the way you go to freeze your butt because you can't say no. Because you're a homestead. And you meet for this, and you meet for that, and you yell at each other because you just can't check. Can't stand that faggot and you hate that bitch. You're trying hard to forget, but there's just one hitch. Then your future family and neighbor is best. And you have no choice but to stand the test. Because you're a homestead. Then there's HPD and HUD, which you know damn well don't stand for ye. But instead of trying to help frustrate this effort you've made to collaborate, because you're a homestead. You try to make your lives a little better. Instead they say you're missing a letter. And as you work your fingers to the bone, you hope to never hear the words, no loan. Because you're a homesteader. The years roll by like water up a roof, and your effort begins to show some proof. Your sense of pride begins to swell. The title shows that you're a place to dwell. Because you're a homesteader. The other day, I performed with Sergio and the group at a library in the Bronx, and I almost got thrown out because I used profanity.
What?
So the woman had a fit. She said, "You don't curse over here in the library. You can't do that." And she really went off, you know, rather anal. But what I, because it was Sergio's gig, I didn't want to get in her way, so I was, I just bowed to her and I said, "My apologies." I wanted to say "fuck you," but that's not what I really wanted to tell her was, in this library that you seem to be defending, Do you think there are volumes over here that might have profanity dating all the way back to Shakespeare? And have you done some reading lately, or are you just the censor? So the next piece has to do with profanity, because a lot of people get uptight about fuck you and motherfucker. And I think that fuck you and motherfucker are important parts of the regular language lexicon, especially if you live in New York City. They're very useful words, man. You know? Yes or no? Yes. You know, hey. So the next piece that I'm about to read, if I can find it, is called Malas Palabras. The other day I was reading the New York Times, and they had a couple of articles on guys doing PhDs on cursing, you know? And one of them pointed out that in the, I think it was the 16th century, King James, the one who wrote the King James Bible, became very popular amongst the general folks because he called one of the ecclesiastics a turd. King James. This poem is called Malas Palabras, and it has to do, I think it's self-explanatory. I can find it, shit. Here it is. Coño, carajo, puñeta. I want everybody to repeat those, please. Coño, carajo, puñeta. Puñeta, you have to go like this. Puñeta. And you know, to me, that's like a prayer, you know. Coño, carajo, puñeta. If you put your fingers together and meditate on that shit before you go to work in the morning. Coño, carajo, puñeta. Coño, carajo, puñeta. Coño, carajo, puñeta. You will release so much stress before you go to work. And then you say amen. Coño, carajo, puñeta. Ay, Dios mío, pero qué vocabulario. Qué falta de educación. Disgusting, lowlife. I would never invite him to my house. Bicho, chichada, la puta chingada. Cierra la puerta, keep him out. Mira, eso no se dice frente a los niños. Jesús, que Dios nos bendiga a todos. ¿Qué son malas palabras? Bad words. Who made up the concept of words that are bad and words that are good? Is there somewhere un secreto concilio de palabras that makes the day-to-day judgments and determinations and hands them down to the masses in the form of an edict? From this day forward, the word puta will be considered a bad word. Not allowed to be said in churches, temples, or other religious shrines. In schools, in front of your mother, who may be allowed to call you hijo de la gran, or in crowded elevators. From this day forward, the Council de la Barbería Oficial declares that the acceptable forms of the word puta will be ladies of the night, working girls, professionals, or whores. The latter may only be used within the nuclear family after the children are asleep. What is it about bad words that is so fascinating? Why is it that many people, when they learn a language, focus on the bad words first? Maybe it has to do with an inner need to be rebellious, or simply blasphemous. Another problem with malas palabras is that due to uneven development, a bad word might not be a bad word wherever you go. Then again, look out, because maybe a good word can become a bad word. Maybe the internet can fix this. Let's take the word bicho, for instance. In some countries, it means insect. And in other countries, it is an obscene image of the male organ. Some women might claim there is no difference. Some of these women are a little bit too knowledgeable. Pero no son mamá. And in an AP high school Spanish literature class, a group of Puerto Ricans reading out loud in class will hear, mientras la dama dormía, los bichos entraban por la ventana. And imagine a nymphomaniac's wet dream visualizing an army of penises flying in through the window. And the word chichada, which if you're in Puerto Rico is a vulgar exclamation for coitus, while in Panama it is simply a soft drink. So a Panameño walking into a bodega in el barrio on a hot day might lose his life asking the bodeguero for a chichada. Or by the same token, decline an irresistible invitation on the basis that he is not thirsty. Pobrecito. So it might be possible, if we mix these for a moment, for someone to send a bunch of evangelists into flight by stating, saboreando una chicharra deliciosa me picó un tremendo bicho. Which simply translates into, while enjoying a delicious soft drink, I was stung by a huge bug. Such an intelligent man to take the English language and just flip it around any way he wanted to flip it around. And it got to the point with George Carlin that George Carlin had the 7 forbidden words that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Everyone now knows, people remember that case. When George Carlin passed, I felt the great loss. So I think I had to write a piece. And the piece had to do with something I was thinking about for a long time. Because I read the Vagina Monologues. I don't know how many people here have read the Vagina Monologues. I think the Vagina Monologues should be required reading at the junior high school level. Really, in the deepest seriousness. Because what happens with us, we're so fucked up as a society that we don't know how to speak to our children about the most natural thing. And so we wind up waiting too long. We want to have a discussion about the birds and the bees with our kid when our kid is already 30 and shit. It's a little bit late, you know what I mean? And the kids, they just run into all these problems because nobody ever talks about, tú sabes, esa cosa, tú sabes. So I said, we need to have sex education in the home. And I know religion gets in the way and shit. And sometimes the priests get in the way as well. That's another matter. So I wrote this piece in memory of George Carlin. Never know how much I love you. Never know how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me a fever. When you kiss me, fever when you hold me. Fever all through the night, you give me fever. Pussy. The very sound of the word evokes a feeling of nuzzling into something warm, wet, and cozy. Pussycat. Who doesn't love the idea of tenderly fondling a tiny kitten? The more you touch his soft, warm belly, the more it locks around your hand and cooing, encouraging you not to stop. As you languor in this state of pre-eruptive bliss, you appreciate the fact that it can be incredibly addictive. Like crack. Wait a minute, it is crack. But perhaps closer to heroin in its ability to transport you in a knee-buckling nod to Never Never Land. At the same time, pussy is the most natural and yet misunderstood phenomenon. It is both an entrance and an exit. It is first and foremost, then again we are confronted with the chicken and the egg, the portal out of which our entire species emerges. And has been widely understood by the great philosophers Robin Williams and George Carlin. It is the pussy that we devote 1,000,000% of our ancestral testosterone in a daily ritual attempting to invoke our right of return. why is it that the mere mention of pussy is such a taboo? Even by its proper name, vagina, it can only be whispered. Hello, we are referring to the correct anatomical labeling of the female genitalia. Is it because with the assassination of the goddess by the makers of a male god, it has become necessary to silence the essence of her identity? For fear that by its very pronunciation, she just might rise up again in wrath. God forbid, in a flood the likes of Noah, caused by the power of multiple orgasms. Casualidad, duermes y sueñas que te acaricia la brisa y sientes que el rocío besa tiernamente tu mejilla y el aroma del café te hace cosquillas. Seguro sueñas que estás en Puerto Rico. Duermes y sueñas que te enamoran las olas y que hay un cielo azul que conjura con la luna para hacerte prisionero. No lo digo porque es la tierra que quiero. Seguro sueñas que estás en Puerto Rico. You know, one of the things that we experience as Boricuas, Nuyorican particularly, going back to the island, when we go back with so much feeling of patriotism, going back to la Madre Patria, after waving our flags here in all the Independence Day parades, Puerto Rican Day parades, and many of us experiencing being thrown out of our jobs because we refuse to accept all the negative images and all the fucked up shit that goes against us. And we say, you know, and how many of us have not gone to jail over these issues? Yes? And so when we go to the island, we go there wanting to be so much, wanting to let people know that we're so happy to be there. But then one of the things that many times happens to us is when we get there, the people tell us, "Pero tú no eres de aquí. You're not from here." And we look at them like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" They say, "You don't even speak Spanish," like they tell us, you know. Tú hablas en español, pero un gringo, they would tell us that, pero un gringo. Which many times, you know, we want to say fuck you, but we're trying to be nice, you know, sometimes we might do that. It creates a tremendous amount of confusion for us and has over the years. And I know most of you here have felt that pain of going into that pain of rejection from your own people. And so it has forced us to have a place like the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, right? Because the concept of a Nuyorican is something that we have decided to define. We decided that, wait a minute, maybe they're right. Maybe we're not from there. Maybe we're from here. And you say, well, this is our reality, you see. And maybe we're Americans. What a fucked up thing to feel that you're an American. Because you've been fighting this for such a long fucking time. But the fact of the matter is that you've really been fighting yourself. Because we are Americans. And so we must understand that self-definition is very important before you fight, you see. If you don't have a definition of yourself very clear, you can't have a proper fight. So we are Americans with Puerto Rican blood. And as we understand that we're Americans with Puerto Rican blood, we have to fight for the rights as Americans, and we have to defend the U.S. Constitution to make sure that nobody fucks with that Constitution, because the Bill of Rights is what we must fight for. And as we understand Puerto Rico within that concept, we must also understand that we must be anti-imperialism. That it is our money that's going out there in the war in Afghanistan. It is our money that's going out there in the war in Iraq. And we must demand that this money be used for us here and not be given over there to kill our own boys that go over there to fight for nothing. So, it is within this question, the idea of being a Nuyorican, that we must integrate it into ourselves and we must defend the concept. I'm a legal alien. I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm a Nuyorican NPR. I'm a Nuyorican NPR. Ramon Serrano. Puedo culpar el orgullo que siento de ser puertorriqueño y que mi pensamiento no importa dónde voy, me ocupa esa isla, no importa dónde voy, a la tierra bendita, mi pensamiento vuela. Si por casualidad duermes y notas que una lágrima me brota, seguramente es que yo sueño que camino por las calles de mi pueblo y en el vento rico aquel de mil recuerdos repitiera que quizás llorando. It's not over, the party's not over. Down the street at Focal, which is the little bar on the corner of 3rd Street and Avenue B, the party continues. They're waiting for us over there. So those of you who still have a little bit of skip in your step, come over and have a drink with us. It's a cash bar, and they also have food just in case you have munchies. If you have some good herb, tap me on the side. Now, we're also selling the book that I've been reading from. That's my first publication. And if you buy one in the back and haven't bought one in the back yet, we'll also be selling them over there. And I'll be signing that book for those of you who have bought one already. So the idea is to continue. And this song is, for me, very, very significant because it talks about the impossible dream. And the fact of the matter is that I do not believe that any dream is impossible. The mere fact that you can dream it makes it possible, you see. If it was impossible, you would not be able to dream it. And that includes all your wet dreams as well, by the way. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable stars. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious Christ, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I lay my head. Will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars, still strong this last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars.
A hand for the band, please. A hand for the band. Thank you for coming.